My girlfriend cheated on me, then told me if I was unhappy. The door's right there. I said thanks for reminding me, then did something that made her realize how empty the house felt without me. When she walked in and found all my furniture gone, she finally understood what I'd done. Hey viewers, welcome to the channel. We are just starting and your support means a lot if you enjoy these stories. Please consider subscribing and help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. I, Nathan, 28, never thought the woman I loved would hand me the perfect exit line while standing in a house that was about to become a lot emptier than she realized. My name is Nathan Brooks, and this is the story of how my girlfriend of 3 years, Cassie, 26, learned that sometimes when you tell someone the door is right there, they actually walk through it. Cassie and I met at a friend's birthday party 3.5 years ago. She was working as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup, and I was a freelance graphic designer who just landed my biggest client yet. We hit it off immediately over our shared love of horror movies and craft beer. She was funny, ambitious, and had this infectious laugh that could light up any room. Our relationship moved fast, maybe too fast in hindsight. Within 6 months, we'd moved in together to a spacious 2-bedroom apartment downtown. I was making good money from my freelance work, and Cassie's salary was decent, so we could afford a nice place in a trendy neighborhood. More importantly, I thought we were building something real together. Here's where I need to be completely honest about something that becomes important later. Almost everything in our apartment was mine. The couch, the dining table, the bedroom set, the entertainment center, the appliances, even most of the decorative stuff. When we moved in together, Cassie was coming out of a bad financial situation with student loans and credit card debt, so she didn't have much furniture or household items. I didn't mind at all. I'd been living alone for 3 years and had accumulated nice things. I was happy to share my space and my stuff with someone I loved. When Cassie would occasionally mention feeling bad about not contributing more to our furnishings, I'd always tell her the same thing: what's mine is ours. We're building a life together. Looking back, I think that generosity might have been part of the problem. Cassie got comfortable, maybe too comfortable, with the idea that everything would always just be provided for her. The first 1.5 years of our relationship was genuinely great. We traveled together, hosted dinner parties for friends, and talked constantly about our future plans. Cassie was supportive of my freelance career, and I encouraged her ambitions at work. We seemed like partners in every sense of the word. The cracks started showing around the 2-year mark. Cassie got a promotion at work that came with longer hours and more responsibility. She was making new friends in her department, going out for drinks after work, and generally spending less time at home. I understood that her career was important, and I tried to be supportive even when I missed spending evenings together. But then her behavior started changing in ways that made me uncomfortable. She became secretive about her phone, always keeping it face down and taking calls in the other room. She'd come home later and later, often smelling like alcohol and cigarettes, even though she'd supposedly quit smoking months earlier. When I'd ask about her day, she'd give vague answers about work stuff and change the subject. The biggest red flag was how she started treating our shared space. Our apartment went from feeling like our home to feeling like her home that I happened to live in. She'd rearrange furniture without asking, throw away my things during cleaning sprees, and invite her work friends over without checking with me first. When I'd bring up these issues, she'd dismiss my concerns as me being controlling or needy. "Nathan, you need to give me space to live my life," she'd say whenever I tried to have a conversation about our relationship. "I'm not your property and this isn't just your apartment anymore." Except it literally was mostly my apartment, furnished with my things, but pointing that out would apparently make me petty according to Cassie. The gaslighting escalated over several months. Anytime I expressed concern about her behavior, she'd turn it around on me. If I mentioned that she'd been distant, she'd accuse me of being clingy. If I asked why she was coming home so late, she'd say I was trying to control her social life. If I brought up the fact that we barely spent time together anymore, she'd claim I was being dramatic and that relationships required independence. I started doubting my own perceptions. Maybe I was being too needy. Maybe I was expecting too much from the relationship. Maybe this was just what happened when couples got comfortable with each other. Cassie was very good at making me feel like the problem was my expectations, not her behavior. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening in March. I'd been working late on a project and decided to surprise Cassie by picking up dinner from her favorite Thai restaurant. I knew she'd been stressed about a big presentation at work, so I thought a nice gesture might help reconnect us. When I got home around 8:30, the apartment was dark. I figured Cassie was working late again, so I put the food in the refrigerator and settled in to finish my project. Around 10 o'clock, I heard her key in the door, but she wasn't alone. I heard male voices in our entryway, followed by Cassie's laugh and someone shushing her. My stomach dropped, but I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe she'd brought coworkers home to continue working on her presentation. Maybe it was innocent. I walked toward the living room to say hello and froze in the doorway. Cassie was on our couch, my couch, kissing a guy I'd never seen before. They were both clearly drunk, and his hands were all over her. On the coffee table next to them were 2 empty wine glasses and an open bottle of the expensive wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. Cassie, I said quietly. They broke apart and Cassie looked at me with an expression that wasn't shame or guilt but annoyance, like I'd interrupted something important. Nathan, this is awkward, she said, not even bothering to move away from the guy. This is Derek Martinez, 29, from my office. Derek looked uncomfortable and started to stand up. Maybe I should go. No, Cassie said, pulling him back down. Nathan was just leaving, weren't you, Nathan? I stared at her, not quite processing what was happening. What? I said you were just leaving. Derek and I have work to discuss. Cassie, what the hell is going on here? She rolled her eyes dramatically. Nathan, don't be dense. Derek and I have been seeing each other. I've been trying to figure out how to tell you, but honestly, you've been so clingy lately that I haven't found the right moment. The casual cruelty of that statement hit me like a physical blow. She'd been cheating on me, and somehow it was my fault for being too clingy to create the right opportunity for her to break up with me. How long? I asked. Does it matter? Look, Nathan, we've been growing apart for months. You must have noticed. This isn't working anymore. So you decided to cheat instead of having an adult conversation about it. Cassie stood up, swaying slightly from the wine. I'm not cheating, Nathan. I'm moving on. There's a difference. You're moving on while still living in our apartment, sleeping in our bed, using our things. Our things? She laughed bitterly. Nathan, just because you bought everything doesn't mean you own me. I live here too. I have just as much right to bring someone over as you do. Derek looked increasingly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Cassie, maybe we should talk about this another time. No, she said firmly. Nathan needs to hear this. I'm tired of walking on eggshells in my own home because he can't handle the fact that I have a life outside of this relationship. That's when something clicked for me. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was calculated. Cassie had been planning this maybe for months. She'd been living in my apartment, using my things, eating my food, and sleeping in my bed while carrying on an affair and planning to replace me. So what exactly are you suggesting here, Cassie? She sat back down next to Derek and took his hand possessively. I'm suggesting that maybe it's time we both admitted this relationship has run its course. You can be mature about this and figure out a transition plan that works for everyone. A transition plan. Well, obviously one of us needs to find a new place, and since I have a more stable income now with my promotion, it makes more sense for me to keep the apartment. You can take your time finding something new, but Derek and I need space to see where this goes. The audacity was breathtaking. She wanted me to move out of the apartment I'd furnished so she could play house with her affair partner in my space, surrounded by my things. Nathan, I know this is hard to hear, but you have to admit we've both been unhappy for a while now. I'm just being honest about it. I haven't been unhappy, Cassie. I've been confused and hurt by your behavior, but I thought we could work through it. That's exactly the problem, she said with exaggerated patience, like she was explaining something to a child. You keep trying to fix something that's broken beyond repair. Sometimes you have to know when to let go. Derek shifted uncomfortably. Look, man, I didn't know about you when this started. Cassie said you guys were basically roommates at this point. Roommates? I looked at Cassie. Is that what you told him? She had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. Nathan, don't make this more dramatic than it needs to be. We've been more like friends living together than a couple for months now. Friends don't sleep in the same bed every night, Cassie. Friends don't talk about moving in together permanently. Friends don't plan vacations for next summer. Those were just conversations, Nathan. I was trying to be nice. Trying to be nice. 3 years of what I thought was love and partnership, and she was just trying to be nice. Looked around our living room, at the couch where my girlfriend was holding hands with another man, at the coffee table with my wine glasses, at the artwork on the walls that I'd chosen and paid for. Everything in this space was mine except the woman who was telling me I needed to leave. You're right, Cassie, I said finally. This isn't working anymore. She looked relieved. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. And you're right that one of us should move out. Exactly, I think if we handle this maturely, we can both move on without making it ugly. I couldn't agree more. You know what else you're right about? She looked at me suspiciously. What? You're right that I have to know when to let go, and you're especially right about something else you said earlier. What's that? I smiled for the first time all evening. You reminded me that the door's right there. Thanks for that. I'd almost forgotten. Cassie looked confused. Nathan, what are you talking about? Nothing important. Listen, I'm going to go stay at my friend Kevin's place tonight to give you and Derek some space. We can talk about logistics tomorrow. The relief on her face was almost insulting. It's really mature of you, Nathan. I appreciate you being understanding about this. Oh, I understand perfectly, more than you know. I went to our bedroom, packed a bag with clothes and essentials, and grabbed my laptop and work files. Before I left, I stopped in the living room where Cassie and Derek were already back to canoodling on my couch. Cassie, just one more thing. What? Enjoy the apartment tonight. Really take it all in. She looked at me strangely. Okay, Nathan, are you feeling all right? I'm feeling great, better than I have in months, actually. Thanks again for reminding me about that door. The next morning, I called in sick to my biggest client project, which bought me the entire day. Then I called my friend Kevin Miller, 30, who owns a moving company. Kevin, I need a favor and I need it today. What's up, man? I explained the situation and Kevin was immediately on board. Dude, that's cold even for a breakup. Don't worry, I've got a crew available this afternoon. Kevin, I need this done while she's at work and I need it done completely. I'm talking about everything. Everything, everything. Everything that's mine, which is basically everything except her clothes and personal stuff. By noon, Kevin had assembled a crew of 4 guys and 2 trucks. I'd made a detailed list of everything that belonged to me, which was extensive. The living room furniture, the dining set, the bedroom furniture, the appliances, the electronics, the kitchenware, the decorative items, even the curtains and rugs. The only things I left were Cassie's clothes, her personal items, and basic necessities like toilet paper and cleaning supplies. The move took 6 hours. When we were done, the apartment looked completely different. Not empty exactly, but sparse in a way that highlighted how much of our shared life had actually been my life that I'd shared with her. I'd found a furnished short-term rental across town, so I had somewhere to put everything temporarily while I figured out my next move, but the important thing was getting my stuff out of the apartment before Cassie came home. Kevin surveyed the nearly empty apartment before we left. Man, she's going to flip when she sees this. She told me the door was right there. I figured I should take her advice. What about your lease? Month to month, and it's in my name only. I'll handle it with the landlord tomorrow. I left my keys on the kitchen counter next to a note that simply said, "Thanks for reminding me about the door." Nathan, then I waited. Cassie called me at 8:15 that evening and she was not happy. "Nathan, what the hell did you do?" "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean. Where is everything? Where's the couch? Where's the TV? Where's the bed?" "Oh, that. I took my stuff with me, since I was moving out." "Your stuff, Nathan, that's our stuff. You can't just take everything." "Actually, Cassie, it's my stuff. Have receipts for pretty much everything if you'd like to see them. You said yourself that just because I bought everything doesn't mean I own you. You're right. I don't own you, but I do own my furniture." "This is insane. You're being vindictive and petty." "I'm being practical. You made it clear that our relationship was over and that you needed space to explore things with Derek. I'm giving you that space." "Nathan, you can't leave me in an empty apartment." "It's not empty, Cassie. Your clothes are there, your personal items are there, the utilities are still on. You have everything that's actually yours. What am I supposed to sleep on? What am I supposed to sit on? How am I supposed to eat dinner?" "I don't know, Cassie." "Maybe Derek can help you figure it out. After all, you said you two needed space to see where things go. Now you have all the space you could want." The silence on the other end of the phone stretched for almost a minute. "Nathan, this is crazy. You're being completely unreasonable. We can work this out like adults." "I thought we did work it out like adults." "You told me the relationship was over. You made it clear you wanted me gone, and you even helpfully reminded me that the door was right there. I took your advice. I didn't mean you should take everything with you. What did you think would happen, Cassie? That I'd move out and leave all my stuff behind for you and your boyfriend to enjoy? That I'd pay rent on furniture for your new relationship?" "Nathan, please, I know I handled things badly last night, but this is extreme. Can we please just talk about this?" "We are talking about it. You're calling me from your empty apartment, realizing that maybe you didn't think this through as well as you thought you did. Where am I supposed to sleep tonight?" "I honestly don't know, Cassie. That's not my problem to solve anymore." "Nathan, you're being cruel." "I'm being honest. For the first time in months, I'm being completely honest. You wanted me gone, so I'm gone. You wanted space, so you have space. You wanted to see where things go with Derek, so now you can see where things go with Derek in an empty apartment that you'll need to furnish yourself." Another long silence. "What about the lease?" "I'll be speaking with the landlord tomorrow about ending my tenancy. You'll need to work out your own arrangement if you want to stay." "Nathan, I can't afford this place on my own." "Probably not, but that's something you should have considered before you decided to cheat on me in our living room." "Our living room that you took with you?" "My living room that I took with me, yes." The call went on for another 20 minutes, with Cassie alternating between anger, bargaining, and what sounded like genuine panic as the reality of her situation sank in. She'd assumed she could have her cake and eat it too, keep the comfortable lifestyle I'd provided while exploring new relationships. The idea that actions might have consequences apparently hadn't occurred to her. Over the next few days, I got a series of increasingly desperate calls and texts. Derek had apparently disappeared after the first night in the empty apartment, presumably realizing that the situation was more complicated than he'd been led to believe. Cassie was staying with her friend Maya Santos, 25, and scrambling to figure out her housing situation. "Nathan, I made a mistake. I know that now. Can we please just talk about this? I miss you. You miss me or you miss my furniture. That's not fair." "Cassie, what's not fair is carrying on an affair for months while living in my apartment, sleeping in my bed, and eating my food. What's not fair is gaslighting me into thinking I was the problem when you were the one being dishonest. What's not fair is bringing another man into our home and then telling me I was the one who needed to leave. I know I handled things badly, but we can work through this. People make mistakes." "Some mistakes, yes, but what you did wasn't a mistake, Cassie. It was a series of calculated choices over several months. You chose to cheat, you chose to lie, you chose to gaslight me, and you chose to publicly humiliate me in our own home. Those weren't mistakes. That was who you decided to be. Nathan, I love you. I know I messed up, but I love you." "No, Cassie, you loved the lifestyle I provided. You loved having someone take care of you financially and emotionally while you did whatever you wanted. That's not the same thing as loving me." The final conversation happened about 2 weeks after I moved out. Cassie had apparently been telling people her version of events, painting me as vindictive and abusive for taking my belongings with me. Mutual friends were reaching out to get the real story, and the truth was spreading through our social circle. Nathan, you're destroying my reputation. People think I'm some kind of monster. I haven't said anything to anyone that wasn't true. You told Kevin what happened, and now everyone knows. Kevin asked me why I needed to move my stuff out so quickly. I told him the truth. If you're embarrassed by your actions, maybe you should have thought about that before you took those actions. This is all so unnecessary. We could have handled this privately. We could have, if you'd handled the breakup privately instead of cheating on me for months and then bringing your affair partner into our home. You made this public the moment you decided to humiliate me in my own living room. I want to make this right, Nathan. Tell me what I can do. There's nothing you can do, Cassie. You can't undo the lying, the cheating, or the complete lack of respect you showed me. But more importantly, I don't want you to make it right. I'm happier now than I've been in months. And that was true. Last 2 weeks had been clarifying in a way I hadn't expected. Living in my temporary apartment, surrounded by my own things, not walking on eggshells or second-guessing my perceptions, had reminded me what peace felt like. Nathan, please, I'll do anything. Cassie, the best thing you can do for me is exactly what you're doing. Stay out of my life and let me move on. That was our last conversation. I heard through friends that Cassie eventually had to move back in with her parents because she couldn't afford a decent apartment on her own. Derek had completely ghosted her after that first night, apparently not interested in dating someone whose life was falling apart. Her work performance suffered, and she ended up losing the promotion she'd been so proud of. I felt bad about that for about 5 minutes. Then I remembered the look on her face when she told me I was just being dramatic about our relationship problems, and the sympathy disappeared. 6 months later, I'd found a great apartment in a neighborhood I actually preferred, furnished it exactly how I wanted, and started dating someone new. Lisa Park, 27, is a veterinarian who has her own place, her own furniture, and her own life. When we spend time together, it's because we want to be together, not because either of us needs the other person to provide something we can't provide for ourselves. Lisa thinks the whole story is hilarious. She literally told you the door was right there and then got mad when you walked through it. That's amazing. The funny thing is, she was right. The door was right there and I should have used it months earlier. When did you know you were done with her? Honestly, the moment she told me I was trying to be nice about our 3-year relationship. That's when I realized she'd been playing a completely different game than I was, and I was never going to win by her rules. I've learned a lot about myself through this whole experience. I learned that I'd been so focused on being the perfect boyfriend that I'd ignored obvious red flags. I learned that generosity without reciprocity isn't kindness, it's enabling. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes when someone shows you who they really are, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is believe them. Cassie did me a favor that night when she cheated on me in my own living room and then told me the door was right there. She saved me from wasting more years on someone who saw me as a convenience rather than a partner. She also handed me the perfect exit line. I should probably send her a thank you card. On second thought, I think the empty apartment was thanks enough. Sometimes when someone tells you the door is right there, the best response is simply to walk through it. And if you happen to take all your furniture with you on the way out, well, that's just being practical. After all, they did say they wanted space.